Hello and thank you for joining us today at Distracted by Life. Our podcast is all about making change within yourself and your relationships. We share conversations, stories, and explore ideas coming from our lifelong journey of the high points and especially the low points where we learn to face our fears or cope with pain, loss, and failure. We do this in a discovery quest to establish patterns around our past and understanding whether we are tripping up from our past or being held hostage by it. We work on identifying ways to move forward, aligning our core values, and unlocking the keys to self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-compassion, and letting go of what is not serving you positively in life. A better you is always there, ready to explore in a new world. So let's begin. Welcome to Distracted by Life. My name is Dan, here's your host, and in today's episode we'll discuss the 5 hindrances to self-mastery with Amal. You remember there was a TED Talk last year with Master Shi Heng Yi, who spoke about life as a journey and to recognize that our experiences and how we respond to them will define whether we achieve the destination we seek. In effect, it's how we handle life's challenges, facing them head on, and accepting the hard part, all knowing that you can only do it without taking any shortcuts. Amal is here today to give us some perspective on the 5 hindrances to self-mastery as we discuss each one in detail. Hello and welcome, Amal.
Hi.
Hi.
Well, this is I find it to be my favorite topic because when I listened to his TED Talk from last year, it was like a light bulb moment came to me actually. And it's funny enough, I actually, as I went through the 5 different hindrances to self-mastery, actually, I saw myself in each one of them. However, not all at once necessarily in life, but at one state or a situation at a time. So these hindrances are the things that all of us we will encounter at some point along the way. And they can stall our progress if not dealt with properly. And if you want to bring meaning and value to your life, you need to learn how to master yourself actually and not let anything hinder your journey. So Master Yi actually shared a story in his TED Talk, and I'm just going to kind of share that story very briefly and quickly. So there was a man that wanted to climb this high mountain and wanted to see what he would find once he get at the foot of the mountain. So he started his journey, and as he is going through his journey, he met a traveler in his path. And so he asked the traveler, the first one, how was his journey and what did he discovered at the foot of the mountain. So the first traveler shared his experience. Then he moved on and kept on going and met the second traveler, and he asked the same questions, the third and the fourth and so on. So in the end, the man kind of decided, after hearing how each traveler path was, he thought it was really difficult and said to himself, what's the point really now in going through the journey when he already know what it's like? So there is no point. So where was the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that each individual need to find the most suitable way to travel on their path or to make that journey. In this as an example, to that climb to the top. The climb to the mountain is your life. It's what you're facing. It's you translate the climb to the mountain, the difficulties it translates to the obstacles and the difficulties in your life. Secondly, there is information and knowledge that each traveler shared with this man, but it's impossible to share the experience of clarity when you are at the peak of that mountain yourself. There is really different between all of us share our life experiences and challenges and what we learn with others, but it's not the same as actually going through it yourself and having that clarity that you obtain literally yourself when you go through it. And
So basically, if I understand it correctly, the guy didn't end up going up the mountain. He basically took all the experiences that everyone had and made that his experience.
Yeah, he made up his mind in not going through the journey and finishing to go to the peak of the mountain. Even
so he misses out on what it actually feels like.
Yes, because he thought, okay, what's the point? And the third point is that you really need to invest the right effort to climb that mountain. So we all need to invest and put in the effort to overcome our challenges and and that we face. Master Yi actually talked about what clarity means. And he says, clarity is you see clearer. When you see more clear, interrelations become more apparent. When things are clear, there is no need to believe anyone or anything because you can distinguish for yourself which is the proper direction to take or which decision you have to make in order for you, in order actually for your goals and aspiration to start to shape. So, along your personal journey, you will always encounter challenges, as I mentioned earlier. Those challenges either will prevent you or stop you from moving forward or even climbing that mountain in this example. In the Shaolin Temple, they refer to them as the 5 hindrances. And the 5 hindrances are describing the different state of the mind that we encounter either at a situation or in an obstacle along our journey, which is our life journey. So in this case, I would like to explore some of them a little bit in details. And I'll also mention what they are. So the first one is sensual desire. And sensual desire is the pursuit of pleasure or gratification, immediate gratification that arises in the moment. When you pay attention to something that is giving you positive emotion or pleasure. And the positive emotion can originate from 5 gates of your body: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling.
The 5 senses.
Yes. Don't we all get tempted with one thing or another when it comes...
Okay, not that I want to use the mountain analogy again, but if I understand this correctly, I'm on my way. I want to climb this mountain.
Yes.
And there's an awesome pizza right there. And I could see it, I could smell it, I could touch it, and eventually taste it, and that totally stopping
and you want
that
it.
walk up the mountain.
Yes.
Because I want that pizza.
Yes. Right now, you want it.
Okay, so sensual desire is it's not just sexual desire. It's actually all your senses.
Yeah.
That get you distracted, and then lose track.
Yeah, it involves all the 5 senses. It could be any scenario that falls under these. It could be someone struggle with weight loss. It could be someone struggle with porn addiction. It could be someone struggle with, let's say,
drug addiction, everything.
Drug addiction.
I can only speak to the weight loss part of it.
Yes,
I'm huge on that one with the weight loss part. That's always been a struggle.
It could be someone who's addicted to shopping, numbing their feelings.
Yes.
All they want to do is shop, and that's it. They have million shoes and million different colors. It could be anything, and so what happened is, when you get it sucked into this mental state, you get distracted. You lose your track, exactly how you described it.
Yeah.
When this temptation becomes so strong that you don't want to leave or move on this sensual desire, end up turning into an obsession. And either way, remaining in the same place means you can't get clarity. So, weight loss.
Yeah, because you just keep repeating the same thing over, same routine over
cycle.
and over and over. Same cycle, that is.
And it gives you a lot of gratification in the moment, and it makes you feel good, and then you really want it, and you keep having it, and you can't let it go, and the not letting it go is becoming the obsession with that. So it has a really strong hold on your mind, and it doesn't allow you to make any clear decision or even move it. You don't even notice that you're being distracted off your path. That works in all areas of our life, including our professional life as well. The second one, ill will or aversion. This one describes the state of the mind that arise from negative emotions. Again, we all have that. In this state of mind, you have an aversion, rejection, or dislike against an object, a situation, or someone. So whatever it is you dislike, it won't make your journey pleasant. So an example of that, I'm going to use myself in this. I like to have a car. It's convenient, and I want to drive because I can go from point A and B, no issues, and it's really convenient. But I hate driving. But I like having a car, and I like the convenient. So it's whatever you dislike that makes the journey unpleasant. So in this case, as much as I like having a car and the convenient, I actually don't like driving. So every time I get on a car and I drive, I'm not crazy about it. I also want to avoid driving altogether. I would rather be driven. So that's been an issue for me for quite some time.
On a personal note, I can vouch for her hatred of driving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well.
Yeah.
And so unless you learn to let go of that ill will, it's even possible that you won't continue the journey. Oh, okay, in this scenario, I still do it, but...
So ill will and aversion. I'm going back to the mountain. So I'm on my way up the mountain. I started my journey. And it rains. And it rains hard. It rains really, really hard. I know that all I have to do is walk through that rain. Eventually, sunshine will be there.
But you don't like the rain.
I don't, because I hate the rain. I stop. I turn around and go back.
Same with the snow. I don't like snow. I live in Canada.
Okay, well, technically, listen, I like rain. I was just using the analogy, and I respect the snow because, Canadian. But you basically walk away from the walls that are there, the obstacles that are there.
Here's another one. Yes, here's another one. In a professional setting, you work with a boss, a manager, an executive, or even a colleague. You're not crazy about them. They give you this, they trigger you. You have this negative emotion.
Okay, been there. Yep.
So what do you do about that? It's a problem because every time you're going to deal with them, it's the dealing or even being in a project or working with them in something, it's going to be unpleasant because you have that negative emotion inside you about them. And so you don't really have a lot of choices. You quit. Not realistic. What do? You reject them altogether. Then no teamwork. You can't move your project forward. You can't produce results. So what is it? The only other option is to really, really in order to master yourself or your state of mind in this situation is you really have to let it go. It's hard, but that's where self-mastery is doing the hard thing, is really, really being aware in doing what it is that you're feeling. Now you gotta let it go so the journey doesn't become pleasant.
Okay.
Because you can't change their behavior, right?
Yeah.
You can only change yours.
Yeah.
And you are on a journey to self-mastery. Self-mastery is really about digging deep and looking inward. It's not about finding your answers with other people.
I'm thinking it's not necessarily where I am now, but where I was, as could be one of those things that I avoid. And that would be trauma.
Yeah.
So unless you deal with that trauma from a long time ago, you won't move forward.
Yeah.
Whether it's work trauma, whether it's personal trauma. So it's not necessarily what's happening to me at this point that I could see, like rain coming down as I'm going up the mountain. It could be the fact that I had this fear that's stopping me
Something
from going.
happened in your past that made a huge impact, which is the trauma. And so every time an experience of that sort pop up in your journey, it kind of brings you back into that negative emotion, that state of mind.
So coming to peace with the past is going to help my journey forward.
Yeah. And one of the hindrances that's coming up is going to speak to also about the past. So
okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's okay.
You got me thinking.
That's perfect kind of relating to put it in perspective, actually.
Yeah.
So the third one is dullness or heaviness. And this one is known as either the sloth or the torpor. The sloth
or the torpor?
Yes.
Okay.
And the sloth is the heaviness of the body.
Yeah.
And the torpor is the dullness of the mind. It characterizes by lack of motivation, lack of energy, sleepiness, and oftentimes it manifests itself in a state of depression. Very familiar. This is so easy to spot out on people, and maybe harder to spot it in yourself, but it's very easy to spot it on other people. And when you get into the state of depression, it's like your imprisonment. You are locked in a dark cell or a hole or a cave or whatever you wanna call it.
Most of us have been down this road.
Yeah, most of us. And that becomes and when you are in that mental state, it's very hard to make any type of mental or physical effort. So in order to continue your path, there is only one option left for you. Nothing else, really one, is to find a way to get out of that mental state.
Like a mental block.
Yes.
And the only way out isn't, well, it's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing. It's getting over your mental block.
And I'm going to say this to my viewers who are listening.
Listeners.
Yeah. This is, if that's you need to get help, like a professional help. Because when it comes to depression and mental illness, that's a whole bag of other issues that need care and attention. I use an example in here is my mother. I think my mother grew up she had a very hard childhood and background, and she had a not the greatest marriage either, relationship. However, she believed it's something, her relationship and her marriage was great. She believed that full-heartedly. I don't necessarily agree with her view on it. But then again, when I look back, the childhood, the background, the byproduct of their environment, the way they were raised, at that time, it was okay to hit. It was okay to swear. It was okay to basically live in an abusive marriage, physically and emotionally. And so that was normal. That was nothing wrong with them. So you can't sit now to tell her there is something wrong with it. She'll say no, because that's not what she have known about her life, her childhood, and her environment. However, I think she suffered from depression for the longest as I've known her as my mother. I have tried to get her help, but if the person doesn't admit that they actually suffer from depression and they also want to talk and revisit their path to heal the wounds and the trauma and all of those things and really get comfortable with discomfort, meaning vulnerabilities and pain and all of those things, and shame, the vulnerability, the pain, and everything that you want to bury. If you can't face those to try to heal, there is nothing I could do. And I think a lot of that, unfortunately, we lived in. We were raised that way. and we got impacted by that. And I don't blame her, because I really don't. She really doesn't believe she have depression, and she doesn't think that any of the way her lifestyle has affected me and my brothers in this case. So
any change requires seeing it. You have to see it in yourself.
You really have to see it in yourself. Like I said, it's so easy to spot it in other people when you find a friend of yours going through a tough time. They say they lost someone. There is a period you gotta give them their time to grieve and be sad, but then you have to help them. As a friend, you're not a psychologist, but all you could do is try to bring awareness, help them, to guide them through that. So for me as a coach, I'm not here because I want to sell. I want to make 10 figures a month and have all these clients and all of this stuff and make money. It's not about a money machine as a coach. As a coach, I want to help people to bring awareness in those dark areas, and that these 5 hindrances that they can see themselves in. A coach is meant to help you to see those areas of your life and then leave you to it, because you have to fight those battles. A coach is a guide, a counselor, an advisor, definitely not a therapist, a psychologist, but it's there to say, to pick up a mirror, and that's what my work is about, is picking up a mirror and let you see yourself in that mirror and shed light on the areas that's blocking you, stopping you, all of those things, preventing you from moving on, whether professionally or personally, in hopes that you will have enough energy and path to pick up and go. So that's the third hindrance.
That was a pretty serious one.
Yeah.
What's the
fourth one is restlessness. In this state of mind, it's the unsettled mind. It means that your mind cannot settle in the present moment. Unsettled mind is either worrying mind about the future or traveling into the past, rejecting and judging an event that happened in the past. They call it also the monkey mind, because it constantly jumps from one branch to another, unable to stay in one place for too long at a present moment. Don't we all have that? We have things that just keep our mind rolls and settle. Yeah,
actually quite a bit. Regrets from the past, quote unquote mistakes that you could have avoided, still going back there, resentment. And I'm not reading off anything. That's everything that's coming to mind. Yeah, I don't like this one. Yeah, I don't.
That's the one that a tape recorder keeps playing, and that tape recorder is the past. That's what we're talking about, the past traumas and the wounds. And that is what caused the unsettle of the mind. When you brought up trauma and wounds, from the past, when we talked about ill will, this is also a little bit, it's funny how restlessness caused, it's really the stemming either you are, it caused anxiousness and anxiety because you're worrying about the future. And then when you're looking at the past, what it does to you is that you're living in the past. You can't see anything. It stops you on your track from moving on, because it'll never be like this. It happened to me before, because I can't do this, because this is what happened last time. You freeze.
Or you accept you see your successes of the past, and it kind of stops you from even trying anything new now, even though you need to.
Yes.
Because you're just kind of relying on, past success. Yeah.
The problem with this, there is no time to think clearly when you do that. When you are living in the past and you and looking at living also in the future that didn't come, so you're not even actually paying attention to your present. So there is no time that you've given to yourself to actually think clearly.
So is this part of that whole mindfulness thing?
Yes.
Where you've got to live in the present?
Absolutely. Mindfulness helps people in really just focusing on the present moment. Not that when people meditate, they do get distracted because it asks you to sit in silence, and focus focus on your breath and all that.
Yeah.
You know what? You don't master it right away. It takes a long time to master meditation. However, the more you do it, you get really good at it. It's about the practice. And the practice is knowing that it's not you trying to be perfect, it's mastering the perfection of meditation. It's actually about the fact that you are able to recognize where your mind is wandering while you're sitting in silence. And then once you know you're acknowledging that thought. And then basically you start bring a focus and settle mind by focusing on something else than that thought, which is your breathing. And so the last one, which is the fifth one, is skeptical doubt. It is closely related to the state of the mind based on indecisiveness. Oh, I lived some of those actually.
I can vouch for that. Yeah.
It is very easy in the state of the mind getting lost in thoughts. You ask yourself, can I do this? Is this the right path? What will others say? What if this? What if that? And an example of this, when you're contemplating trying to choose between two job offers, or in this case, a job offer that is lucrative, but yet contemplating, do you stay in your current role or you move on with? So it's kind of like, oh my God, should I, what's going to happen, what the consequences are. So the mind cannot, in this case, your mind cannot synchronize with your own actions anymore. And the result, you are getting disconnected with your goals and inspiration that you once set out for yourself. And the way is so filled with too many doubts that more often than not, you will just stop instead of moving on.
Is this?
It's like overwhelming. Yes.
This is second guessing.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I've been down this road too. Well, I think I think it's safe to say we've all been one spot or another in this, or a few at the same time. Okay. Self-doubt. Skeptical doubt.
Yeah. So now that you know these 5 hindrances, basically you got to ask yourself, what are you going to do about them? In reality, you need to align and structure your life in such a way that prevent you or prevent them, either prevent you from falling trap into each one of them or prevent them from arising in your life. And if you're unsuccessful in doing so, you actually need to learn how to remove them. And in order for you to learn how to remove them, you have to use techniques. And these techniques, as Master Yi actually shared in his TED Talk, was there are 4 of them. And in order for you to work with these techniques, because you need to be able to use the technique, because otherwise these hindrances are placing a dark cloud in your mind and you're not able to climb that mountain, or for, in this case, whatever the situation that you're dealing with.
So sensual desire, ill will and aversion, dullness, heaviness, restlessness, and skeptical doubt. Yeah, I just wanted to recap.
Yes.
Okay. So in order to deal with them,
if basically he says you need to align and structure your life in a way that prevent them from happening. But if you can't do that, because that comes from self-mastery, to structure your life and align it based on the fact that you avoid them, so they're not frequent and they don't happen, that means you already mastered yourself in these areas.
Or you're on your road.
Yes.
On your
but
path.
if you are not successful and you're still in work in progress, you would say, there are techniques four method that is that you can follow to help you with that. And simply remember one thing: let it be. And these 4 steps method are: number 1, recognize. Recognizing which state of the mind you find yourself in.
So any one of those 5.
Correct.
Okay.
Number 2, accept. Learn to accept, acknowledge, and allow the situation or the person to be the way it is, or how it is, or how they are. And the third one is investigate. And in this one, you investigate your emotional and mental state and ask yourself questions. Why did it come up? What's going to be the consequences if I remain in this state of mind? Because there is always consequences when we don't take purposeful actions.
Yeah, I'd agree that.
Right? Either we lose our track, we stop completely, and then what happens when we don't master
we become miserable.
Yes, and when we don't recognize what state of mind we are in, we blame life, right? Life is difficult. Life is unfair. I can't believe this. Or we blame other people.
Or fail to take ownership.
Whatever it is, you go down the wrong path.
Not ownership of the problem, but ownership of doing something about it. We fail.
Yes. Yeah. The last one is non-identification. And non-identification means it's a practice. It's the practice that you're saying to yourself, I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not my emotion. It's just that I see all these 3 aspects about me.
Okay, I need help with that one.
It's non-identification. You're not gonna make that situation or whatever the situation.
I won't let it define me.
Define you. Yes. It's not big. Okay. It doesn't become who you are.
Okay. So I'm not identifying with the situation. Because I'm not letting it define who I am.
Or define your life, your history, your destiny, the result, the goal, the aspiration.
I am not that person that deserves to be browbeaten every time I go into work for silliness and stupidity. Yeah. Okay.
So.
Or I'll end up being that person that will be meek and taking that every single day. And whereas I could plan, take a class, upgrade my skills, prepare, find something else. Work-wise,
it speaks to the previous episodes that we have. You can fall into this victim helplessness mentality.
Yep. You've got to recognize that you do have a way out, and accept the situation as it is. Not belabor the fact, or just be all consumed and depressed over it. And we recognize, we see this situation going on, or these feelings going on. And then figure out, investigate what we can do about it.
To me, the biggest one, all those 4 steps are extremely important and useful to remember each time, because it really guides you through. First, you question what state of the mind you're in. The second one, now you have to accept it, acknowledge it, and just kind of, allow the situation to happen, because you can't fight with it. You can't resist it. Because self-mastery is all about the challenges and obstacles you will continue to encounter in your life, no matter what, no matter who you are, or no matter what. So you can't resist it. You gotta allow the situation or even the person the way they are. The third one is huge for me, which brought up the aha moment for me, is that you really gotta ask yourself these 2 questions. Why did it come up? Because now you're really digging deep. The second question is the big one, which is, if I don't do anything about it, what's the consequences of staying in this state of mind? Oh my God, this really speaks to what I've got to lose. Because there is something that you would lose by not taking the action. the non-identification is a biggie because it is a practice that you have to keep saying to yourself. You have to see yourself almost like you're stepping outside of that body or that shell and kind of looking from the outside saying, I'm not the emotion, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I'm simply seeing all of these things about myself.
Yeah. I would say it's funny because to me, number 4 really resonates. But number 3, the 2 questions, why did it come up? And what are the consequences if I stay this way or this state of mind? Yeah, it's big.
Because big. I bet you not all of us, when we go through these issues at one point or another in our life, or even whatever state of the mind we're in, I don't think we all ask those questions, because that means awareness, that means digging deep, that means you're investigating. And when we are in it, that we lack clarity. And this is why the 5 masteries, to be able to master yourself, you have to actually make sure you bring clarity to your mind to be able to see, to make decisions, to move forward.
Well, and this goes with what I said at the very beginning. You have to recognize that you have to do it without shortcuts. No pills, no booze, no other sort of
no stuff in your face.
You really have to face it head on without any of those crutches. No shortcuts. It's not an easy road.
No, because when you run away from them, they keep coming up. And then you still don't know how to deal with them because you haven't mastered the first time you were in it.
Constant cycle.
It's a constant cycle. I really enjoyed this episode a lot and this topic specifically. And now that we're coming to an end, I want to say that in all our lives, we are too unique to copy someone else's path. And so in reality is that just because that we're going to meet all sorts of travelers in our life, and they probably, and most of them probably made the journey already or took the path before them, ahead of us, it doesn't mean our experience is going to turn out the same. They can share their experience and their knowledge about the specific situation, but it's never going to be the same clarity that you would get when you actually go through the path yourself. And to bring meaning to your life and to bring value into your life, you need to learn to master yourself and not let the hindrances stop you. Thank you.
Well, I say thank you very much for joining us here today at Distracted by Life. Definitely an enlightening discussion on 5 hindrances of self-mastery and what Master Yi referred to as RAIN, the steps to help us remove the hindrances. I really hope that you've gained as much insight as I have today. Thank you once again, Amal. With that said, stay tuned for our next episode from Amal and myself. Thanks again, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.